Hi, I'm Dr. Eve Switzer. I'm a pediatrician in Enid, and I just wanted to take a minute to go over the COVID-19 vaccine that I received exactly a week ago, just to share my experience. The hospital, one of the hospitals that I work at, was offering the vaccine to providers. They set aside some time a week ago in the morning, and so I went and got my dose. One of the first things that I was pleasantly surprised by were the number of doctors that were in line waiting to get their shot that day. So that was really exciting to see. I got back there. They had a station that was set up. They could vaccinate about 6 different providers at the same time. And when they came to give me my shot, the dose that I was given was about 0.3 milliliters, which is actually less than the shots that we normally give in my office. As a pediatrician, I give vaccines in my office. They are mostly about 0.5 milliliters. So the COVID vaccine is smaller in volume. When I got my shot, I didn't even feel the needle go in. Maybe at the very end there was a slight burn, but it wasn't anywhere near the same as when I got my flu shot a couple of months ago, or I got my second shingles vaccine earlier this year. So the rest of the day, probably about 6 hours later, I did notice that my right arm was a little bit sore, but it certainly wasn't getting in the way of me doing anything. I still had that afternoon off. I went for a 3-mile run. Probably the only thing that was a little different that day was that I was in bed by about 9 o'clock, which is maybe a couple of hours before I normally go to bed. I woke up the next morning, felt fine. My arm was a little bit sore, so went to worked the full day. And then a couple of days later, the soreness in my arm was completely gone and I had no other symptoms. So I would really suggest that if you have the opportunity to get vaccinated against COVID-19, I would highly recommend it. Another piece of information is that I am allergic to sulfa and had no problems whatsoever getting the vaccine for COVID-19. So please consider, if it is appropriate for you, please get vaccinated.